Hey guys, Heather here from Kreative Kiwi. This video shows how we make our stacked cake design, which is a two hooping design joined together as you stitch. This means the finished size of the design is larger than your hoop. The design set includes 4 different sizes. We've included the wording for Happy Birthday, Happy Anniversary and Happy 4th of July, plus a blank. But of course you can add whatever wording you'd like to it. Please do read our written instructions that are included with our design files. They include more detail as far as colour sequences and options. Look for the PDF file when you unzip your design. Anyway, let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is to hoop 2 layers of water-soluble stabiliser. This is the fabric type. We also use the pinning method when we hoop our stabiliser. If you are new to that idea, there are videos on the website showing Kay's made that show how to do this in detail. Just anything you can do to stop any movement in the hoop makes a far better stitch out. So once we've got it hooped, we're off to our machine, and the first thing you do is stitch the first colour onto the stabiliser. Now this is a placement line, so it's just showing you where you're going to place your fabrics. I do apologise, I didn't realise till I was actually editing this video that you can't really see the placement line. Anyway, I can assure you it is there. The next step is to place your batting over the placement line and tape it in place. Then you can return the hoop back to the machine and we start the next step, which is to stitch the colour 2, which just attaches the batting and gives you the placement lines for the next set of fabrics. Now we remove the hoop from the machine again, and using the sharp scissors we just cut away the excess batting. Now we're going to place our first fabric, which is the plate fabric. I've probably got quite a large piece of material there, you don't need that much. Then put the hoop back onto the machine and we're just going to stitch out the next round, which is I think colour 3, which just attaches that plate fabric. And I bet you know what we're going to do next. Remove the hoop and just trim away the excess fabric from that plate. It's time to place your first cake tier fabric, tape it to the back, and then we can take our hoop back to the machine. And now we just need to trim away that fabric again, just at that bottom where the plate fabric joins. Right, we take our hoop back to the machine, and now it's just a matter of zigzagging that raw edge. It's just to make sure there's no fabric movement while we finish the rest of the design. Rather than watch the sewing machine stitch out the quilting stitches, I've just got a photo so you can see much easier the different steps. So at the top we've got what I call the cake top quilting. It's just that curved around the top. Then we have the pretty star quilting in the middle. And at the bottom on what I call the plate, you've got the shading, just to give a little bit of depth to the plate. In the design, these 3 quilting styles are all in different colours, so you can choose to do bits and pieces or just skip the colours completely and have no quilting. Now it's time to add the backing. If you're making the cake freestanding, I like to put a bit of interfacing on my backing fabric. It just gives it a little bit more strength and makes it easier to cut your back fabric, like you don't get the flappies that you do otherwise. Now, you can see I just tape it to the back of the hoop. There is an alternative, which is to just float your backing fabric under the hoop, which is something I quite like doing. It just takes practice. Now, the last step for this is just attaching the backing fabric. The outline stitch is round twice, so it gives you a nice crisp cutting edge. About finished. Now it's time to just remove the excess fabric on the front and the back of the hoop. Now I've got into the habit of doing the back first. I don't know how many times I've put my hoop back onto the machine and forgotten to cut away the back. So do the back first and then flip it over and do the front. I get asked many times what sort of scissors I use. Those ones in this video I'm using duckbill scissors from Echidna, really good. But reality I use all sorts of scissors depending on the fabric. I use my dressmaking scissors, which are pretty good, and sometimes just if it's getting into tight corners, I use little scissors. Just really the sharpest scissors you've got are the best. Right, take our hoop back to our machine, and it's just basically finishing off the embroidery in the colours of your choice. So the first colour round is going to do a zigzag of the raw edges. I tend to use a white normally, but a neutral thread. Then we go off and do the satin stitch. So the plate is done in white and the cake is done in pink. If you're making the design completely reversible, then just change your bobbin threads to match. Segment 1 is just about done. Remove your hoop from the machine and just cut away the water-soluble stabiliser just close to the edges, just to make it easier for you when you're completely finished. The crucial part is to take a bit more time with just that top raw edge. That's where you're going to join the next segment. So what I like to do is just get as close as you can, or cut as close as you can to that stitching line. Makes it nice and easy when you come to join the design in the next step. Okay, we're on to segment 2 now, and it's created exactly the same way as step 1. So we start off by hooping your 2 layers of water-soluble stabiliser and stitching the first outline. Again, it's really hard to see, sorry about this. Actually, the pink's quite a contrast in real life, but it hasn't shown up on the videos. Now, if you want to do a hanging tab, even though you can't see it there, you're just taping that tab in the centre of the candle. And just tape it outside the stitching line, just so that you've got no problem with the machine hitting the tape. Next we add our palette. Then we're off to the machine and we're going to stitch down our guidelines. Now this stitches out the 3 different fabric panels or guidelines. So you've got the candle, the top layer of the cake and the bottom layer of the cake. Now just as we did in the first segment, we're going to cut away our excess batting. And then we're going to place our fabrics. Isn't video marvellous? I wish I could really cut fabrics or batting or anything that fast. So the first fabric that we place is the bottom layer. Now I've got a large piece of fabric there. It's because it's gingham fabric and I wanted it to be on bias rather than to be straight on. So that's why I've got such a large piece of fabric. It also gives you an idea of why I prefer not to put exact fabric measurements. Often with these types of design you might want to put fussy cuts, so have a really nice bit of fabric set in a certain place, or like this sample here where I wanted the gingham on a different angle. And now with the magic of video, while I've been talking away, the design has gone off to the machine and attached the fabric. Now it's just a matter of trimming away that fabric just at the top edge of the cake layers, and then placing our second layer of fabric. Back to the machine to attach the second cake layer. And you guessed it, we just need to trim away from where we're going to attach the candle fabric and just that bottom layer. Now you can certainly leave the hoop in the machine when you're doing this trimming. I just have found from experience that it is better to remove the hoop and to cut on a hard surface. It does make a difference. Now we've placed the candle fabric and we've taken it back to the machine and we're stitching that down. Last time we're just going to trim that bottom edge. The next step will be to just zigzag just those inner edges, which is just under the candle and the middle layer. So I use a white thread for that. Again, I'm not going to just show you the sewing machine stitching out all this quilting. Basically what you've got is the top cake layer quilting, which is just the horizontal lines, and then you've got the bottom cake quilting, which is just the curvy bit and then vertical lines. On this sample I haven't done any lettering, but this is where the happy birthday, happy 4th of July would be stitched. If you wanted to add your own wording, add someone's name, you need to do it now before we do the next step, which is to add the backing. Here I've just floated it under the hoop, but you could certainly remove the hoop and tape your backing fabric to the back, just whichever you're more comfortable with. As before, when we're attaching the backing, it stitches around twice, just to give you that nice cutting edge. Once the stitching is completed, we're going to take the hoop off the machine and cut away the front and back fabrics. If you wanted, you could just do this segment 2 just as a standalone design and just make it a 2-layer cake rather than a 3-layer cake. Okay, we're getting to the exciting part now. The next step, we take the design back to the hoop and just using a neutral colour, we're doing a zigzag around the raw edges, and the machine will stop where we're about to do the joining. So if you're new to doing joining, just take your time with this. It certainly does take practice. So what we're doing is we're placing our first segment against the stitch lines on the second segment. So you're just matching up your stitch lines. There is a slight overlap. I mean, obviously, if you've cut nicely, there shouldn't be too much, but there will be a slight overlap. Now you can tape the pieces in place. My machine does not like stitching over tape, so I don't tape. But that's definitely because I've done so many of them that I feel quite confident with them now. Just use whatever method works best for you. I use the stop-start, so I slow my machine down and then I stop and start. As I get closer to the other side, you see that I do a bit more adjustment, obviously because of how you've placed the design in your hoop. What you're trying to achieve with this join is that the zigzag joins both designs together, but that when you finish it, that you can see that it's caught both sides, and the zigzag looks nice and flat and even. You are going to put a satin stitch over the top, but obviously the better that the join is now, the better the design's going to be. If you're not happy with the zigzag, you're better off to redo the whole stitch again. Once you are happy with the zigzag, you're pretty much done. It's now just a matter of doing the pretty decorative satin stitch. Again, I'm not going to video the whole satin stitching out, but all the detail is in the instructions. But it's pretty much do the middle layer satin stitch, the top layer satin stitch, the candle satin stitch, and the last bit that I've got showing there is just the candle. And then you're done. The step is just removing everything from the hoop and using some hot water and a Q-tip, going around the edges and removing all the water-soluble stabilizer. This design started off as just basically a birthday cake, but when I was stitching it, I just, can see that it could be very versatile and use it for lots of things. Okay, I've got the front and back of the finished design, the pink one. So you can see the back looks quite nice. I think this design would be perfect for a baby shower. The embellishment I've added there is just a little bow. This shot just shows on the right the size comparison. So we've got the little 4x4 design, which is the 4th of July, up to the large one at the back is the 8x10 Happy Birthday design. The left-hand side is just the Happy Anniversary cake, which I did in a white satin. I've added a lace flower, which is in a Crazy Patch set. The info's all in the instructions. And the last shot, we've got the Happy Birthday cake with the balloon. The balloon's actually a free design. You can see that on the website. On the right, we've got our Happy 4th of July cake. It is a 4x4 design, so it does look quite small in comparison. The finished size of the design for the 4x4 hoop is 4 inches wide by about 5.5 high. The beauty of our large applique designs is you're not constrained by your hoop size. You can certainly make designs bigger than your hoop. Well, hey guys, if you've got this far, thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you've learned something or gotten you some good ideas for what you're going to do next. I say it every time, but I really mean it. I really can't wait to see what you guys come up with this design. Make sure you share the photos on the Facebook group and show us all what you've been doing. Thanks so much.